entered Parliament 2009, I was a member of the Judiciary Committee and the Finance Committee. When I had my second time to be in Parliament, I was with the Appointments Committee, Public Accounts Committee, and this important committee. This time round, the only committee I know I'm a member of is this very important committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just to find out from the nominee if he has applied to the committee on profit in line with Order 173 and Article 98, because I noticed that you indicate that you continue to head your chambers and you are also a director of Fleet Technologies Limited from 2008 to date. So do you have permission from the Right Honourable Speaker to hold these offices?
Mr. Chairman, to the best of my knowledge, the committee is not in place, but I just have to disclose that I'm not working. But these are the positions I hold, and then I would tender in my resignation in due course.
Sorry, I didn't get resignation in which job?
In the job as the head of chambers, because when you are gracious enough to approve me, Parliament, I can't combine the two. And also, I will not be able to be a member who has any profit, endeavor, insofar as you have a ministerial position. But if we're a bare member of Parliament, then you can do some work.
Talk about high cost of building materials. What ideas do you have to bring to bear to ensure that in efforts to address the deficit, we will be catering for the needs of the poor in society, so that after the houses have been constructed, it will be evenly distributed among Ghanaians?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I found to my amazement that what was given me by the ministry by way of my handing over notes and what has been captured in the MPP manifesto in terms of the housing deficit coincide. I was very happy to see that. 1.7 million units. I want to draw your attention to a very interesting scripture, and it's in Luke 9:58. And the Bible says, foxes have holes, the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. If I should pause it, it simply means that Jesus was addressing affordable housing, which is seriously embedded in the MPP manifesto. So, Honourable, it is a problem that we should address. If it matters to Ghana, we shouldn't pay scant attention in terms of time and resources to it. If not, we'll be defeated by this problem. What I see as the problem is not lack of investors or the challenges you are complaining about, trying to use local material, giving investors waivers in terms of machinery and the things they will come for, even having land banks available to investors to give them security so that they will not be inundated with the litigation and the rest of it. I can tell you that since I started playing with the ministry, so to speak, the army of investors, both local and foreign, who believe that they can deliver the units, you have no idea, because I'm tempted to believe the political stocks of President Akufo-Addo is rising and the goodwill is very intact. But the major problem is that when you have a very powerful investor who does not need any money from Ghana and is ready to give you very, very, very large numbers of housing units, what will be his return on investment? That's the problem we are facing in this country. The problem is that they will not be able to have any return on investment because the end user the average Ghanaian cannot afford to own a decent house. The reason being that our income levels are very low. And even if your income levels are not, low, there's nowhere in the world that you find people buying houses outright. There's always a financial arrangement, which is a mortgage arrangement, which permits an individual to use 30% maximum of his income to discharge mortgage installments. And you can have it in the United Kingdom where you can have about 25 years. So eventually you own a house. This is the problem we're facing. The problem we're facing is by reason of the income levels of our people and what you rightly said as expensive houses we have. Unless we look at serious financial arrangements, we will not be able to address the housing deficit. And it comes to this. Mr. Chairman, I was trying to think through the role of SNIT, Social Security and National Insurance Trust. The name is loaded with meaning. What is of more social security concern that you serve the government of Ghana and in the evening of your years, you find a place to lay your head? Look at the money's SNIT.
Chairman, I'm compelled. I have a covenant with my colleague, but now we want specificity. What will you do to provide affordable housing?
I would propose that SNIT should do a good job by setting aside a good chunk of the pool of monies collected on behalf of Ghanaians to address that problem.
So you intend to use pension funds to address the housing deficit. Is that the case?
Certainly. It is very, very important. In fact, we can use pension funds to leverage financing, which will cushion the ordinary Ghanaian from the hardships of high interest rates in terms of even mortgages. We could use that. And bear in mind, we could also find special purpose banks. I've just investigated the collapse of the Bank for Housing and Construction. The Bank for Housing and Construction was a special purpose bank to help with mortgage arrangements. If you care to know, the ordinary commercial banks we have in the country, they want a quick return on their money. You hardly find a commercial bank that will say that, oh, would you want to take this loan, pay me in 25 years? No, there's not one that you can find. But if you have a special purpose bank, like Bank for Housing and Construction, they understand the essence of mortgage, and then they can come and help you, give you a good mortgage arrangement, and then...
Remember, you have given us sufficient information.
My ranking member on Works and Housing, and he's been seeking chairman's leave. I would pray that, Chairman, you grant him one more opportunity since he knows the facts better than I do. So, Chairman, if you can facilitate the Honorable Ahi proceeding further, I'll be most grateful.
I take it that Chairman will then limit his unlimited questions. So that
Rightly. Minus two of my questions.
Thank you, Honorable Minority Leader, for your intervention. Later. Mr. Chairman, there have been perennial flooding in most of our major cities, particularly in Accra. It's a major problem. And there are also a lot of sea erosion now, which is taking over most communities, many communities. It's a major problem now. What are you going to do to ensure that we reclaim some of the eroded land, and then also to be able to manage flooding in our major cities, particularly in Accra.
The exhaustive Korle Lagoon project entails restaurant, sports and recreation, infrastructure development, and the rest. Are you looking at only the Conti aspect, which deals with desilting, dredging, and also drainage? Or you are looking at the overall Korle Lagoon ecological restoration program?
Uppermost in my mind is the threat of floods. When we curtail that, then the restaurants, the playgrounds, and those things that you are mentioning, which are an integral part of the whole area, will be taken care of. I want to graduate slowly in terms of this infrastructure needs, because sometimes you have big plans, but if the money will not roll in, it won't help. We should address first things first.
I want to take this opportunity to congratulate my good friend and brother, Honorable Atta Akyea, Minister Designate. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My question is a very simple question. I'm sure you must be familiar with the Public Works Department, popularly called PWD, which comes under your ministry. I'm told it's been one of the oldest departments, some over 122 years old. The prime responsibility of the department is to renovate government bungalows, reconstruct, and all of that. But it appears it is virtually a dead department now. What are you going to do to bring that department back, because it will create jobs for people? Or do you have that in your plan, your strategy, as you are going to this very important ministry?
Indeed, PWD is one of the departments under the ministry. What I found, unfortunately, that they are underfunded terribly. As at 2016, there was no budgetary support for them. So what we intend doing is that, can we support them financially so they engage in works, serious works, governmental works, and then they rake in some good money. But I am of the view that when you have a governmental entity trying to make good money and all the monies are kept by the government, without a retention dimension, it sort of challenges the core functions of that setup. So I advocate that a lot of artisans who have training, it could be a training ground for people to learn how to do a serious constructional business and the rest of it, renovation of houses. But when they do work, they should be remunerated. And when they are remunerated, we know that they are government setup. Some of the money should be retained so that they will not be so challenged that it will be defunct, as you are trying to say, it's getting there.
But Honorable Senior Lawyer, the Rent Act has been under review for several years now. Will you treat it as one of the emergency laws that you bring to Parliament, just like the local government minister has done, in case you are confirmed?
When I'm confirmed, I think it's about time that we look at that bill again, because of the fact that there's a whole debate about advance payment. In terms of addressing housing needs, either you own land or you can rent. Some people are saying that, how can you say for residential purposes, 3 months advance is sufficient? And when it's commercial, 6 months. Are we being realistic? Because the house owner, the one who invested in the house, will have some returns on investment. So that is for the people's representatives to decide as to whether or not we should give some space in terms of rent advance and we get a good balance. So it is a very important piece of legislation that we should look at and bring the necessary amendments.
Taking it from Conti project and your commitment are you aware that the Conti project probably was not implemented for two reasons? One, because whether it was cost effective, and two, because in an IMF program, government had limits to borrowing. And for instance, for 2015, 2016, you could borrow only up to $500 million US because of the debt to GDP problem. So would you now say that President Mahama did not just hesitate, but he was guided by the fact that that would have been increasing the debt portfolio to which your government promises to bring down? Will you still go ahead to finance it from a loan?
Well, as the finance minister intimated here, there's a need to renegotiate the IMF arrangements with Ghana because of the strictures. So that is a factor that we need to see whether it's possible to get some relief from the strictures of the IMF engagement. When we secure that, it's possible for us to have some financial arrangements that will help us move the economy forward. And it's very, very important. When you talk about the issue of being cost effective, it's like if you have alternatives, then you can look at cost effectiveness. I saw in the Conti arrangement that apart from Exim Bank, Standard Chartered Bank was interested in trying to finance the whole project. On the back of a good negotiation with the IMF, we'll be able to look at the Conti project.
So are you suggesting to this committee that you intend to proceed with the Conti project with a loan facility from the Exim and or the Standard Chartered Bank? Is that the case?
It's the most probability because that is what's on the table before His Excellency President Mahama is elected. We'll look at it and see what we can do about it.
So after all, this government will end up borrowing. Is that the case?
It doesn't follow. It could be that we have a relief in terms of meeting debt servicing. You see, if we negotiate well and we have a relief, the tenor of the loans are giving space. We will have relief and apply resources. Monies intended to service debt will be applied for developmental purposes. So if you have a debt and you can negotiate well, and as I told you from the onset, the political stock of Akufo-Addo is rising, and people might look favorably at us.